The 24th of December 2021, Pressbowl Tvåeka Gård in Sweden at the 60th parallel. That's a mouthful. So here we have our holistically planned grazed sheep. 11 of them, 10 ladies, 1 gentleman. And this is one of our 2 grazing areas. So it runs from that corner to the corner there, and then it goes all the way to the forest edge, following the forest edge to the corner there and back there. There is a shelter which they can access wherever they are within this system. The grazing area is divided into 4 quarters, running to the shelter and from the shelter to the forest edge, and then there's another division running to the shelter and to the perimeter fence there. The past 33 days, I'm not entirely sure, but I will come back to you after this outdoor session where I take you to the paperwork, where we can look in detail at what has happened. But for a bit more than a month, they have been in quarter 1. And that quarter is for winter. The summer situation is a bit different, but for winter I have these lines of wooden fence posts dividing each quarter into 4 quarters. So this grazing area has 16 winter paddocks, and I can use mobile net fence, to hang on eyes on each of these wooden posts, so that I don't have to put the wooden or the metal stakes into the ground, which really doesn't work in winter. The ground is frozen, so you can't get them in, and any point that is in the ground you will not be able to get out of the frozen ground anymore. But hanging them, suspending them above ground, just above ground, from some plastic eyelets, which are usually used for electric wire or electric tape, works perfectly well. So they now have access to this whole quarter, so that's 4 paddocks. So I'm basically strip grazing them. First I started with this triangle here, the far away one. That took them 11 days, which was far more than the 6 days that I estimated. I estimated roughly, on average, 6 days per paddock. And the second one they spent 7 days in. So I just added that to the first quarter. So first there was a net fence running here. This is their path to the shelter. And that has permanent metal fence, like here. Maybe you can make that out. So that is permanent. There was a net fence there, electrified. When I wanted to add this quarter, I simply attached another net fence on this line, and then took away that one, so they could go into that quarter, and so on. Then there was a net fence here. I removed that one. They could go into this one, and I spent 9 days grazing that. And finally, I added the last quarter within this larger quarter, and they spent 6 days, 6.5 to be fair, in that. Now the grass that was in this whole quarter is mostly finished. There is more. I do not really absolutely need to move them yet, because as we can see, they are still grazing, and quite importantly, while I'm standing talking here, they are not being noisy. But also of interest is that they seem to spend most of their time in the 3rd paddock. They have a free choice. They can go to all 4 of these paddocks, and they spent most of their time in the one that they already spent 9 days in. I'm actually starting to wonder if I should already move them to the next quarter. Usually when they are really out of food and they see me, they will be really bleating their heads off, and they definitely will not make it seem as if there is a lot of food left. And now they were a bit noisy when I arrived. Now they're just happily eating. Yep, I think they're out of luck then. Well, what I'll do then, to make the move, I took a bucket with a little bit of pellet food and some oats with me. I think I'll just give that to them as a little treat. And I'll check their gut fill and their condition. And then almost certainly I'll leave them for at least one more day. Well, it's almost 2:45 in the afternoon now. The sun is almost down. You see a bit of what we might call alpenglow on the top of the hill there. So it's almost gone down. If I can leave them here until tomorrow morning, that would actually be quite good. That would add quite a few animal days to this grazing section, and that is always good because winter has only just started. There is quite a bit of it to come still, so every day that I can leave them longer in an area is actually pretty good. You can see how they're digging for grass, and every few scrapes clearly gives them a few bites to eat. No, I really don't see any urgency in moving them right now, but let me go down to them, give them their treats, and that will give me a good opportunity to feel for gut fill and condition, and I'll show you what that is like. I picked up the bucket now. They did notice that. They do know what a bucket means. Incidentally, this amount of snow for this time of the year is very, very little. There should be, usually there's so much that you really can't see any grass anymore. Now it's just basically a dusting, not much more. Hello, Ragnar. Agnar, excuse me. Are you going to let me come in, or are you going to bump my knee? Oi, oi, oi. Yes, you're eager. Maybe I'll throw a handful somewhere, and that will give me some time. No, not really. He's still waiting. There you go. That gives me a chance to hop over without getting zapped. Pick up the buckets. Well, even though they're not hungry perhaps, they are definitely interested in treats. Can't blame them. And they always have to check the bucket, of course. Putting on a glove with my mouth. It's -12. Not too much fun to keep your hands bare for too long. All right. Let's pick a willing victim for checking gut fill. That'd be you, Chewy. By the way, just looking at them like this from a little distance, they are, I think, quite clearly in good condition. Their wool looks very good. When it's not frozen, it's nice and soft and full. Hello, Anya. So gut fill, with cows and horses, you can very easily see it, whether their tummy is full. There is let's wait until there's one that stands still a bit. Here, Runa. The ribs run sort of down here, and the backbone, of course, is here. And then there's a triangle on the left side, which if a horse or a cow has a very empty belly, is just a deep hollow. When they're full, it's flush with the rest of, well, with the ribs and the backbone basically. With sheep, you have to feel. And I can feel the ribs running down here. And it was very much flush with the backbone and the ribs. You could hardly feel where the ribs stopped and where the belly started. So that tells me they are absolutely not hungry. I mean, if you feel that on one sheep, then it will be the same with the rest. Here we have Petty. She is one of the older ones. She is probably 7 years old now. And she looks a bit less healthy than the rest. She's usually a bit less good with condition. If I feel her gut fill in that triangle, again, I don't feel a hollow at all, so that is good. So that is the short-term thing you check for. You want to know if they had a good meal recently, then you check that triangle here. She's full as well. But of course you can have had a very good meal today, but if you have had very bad ones recent, or the previous days or weeks, then your gut fill may be okay, but your condition may be very poor. And for that, you go to their backbone. And if I draw that out, if you cut through the sheep like this, you will see the backbone looking something like this. This is the top, and then this points down, and then the sheep shape is like that, right? Well, condition. If they're in good condition, there is a layer of muscle and fat running like that. Or actually, if it's that shape, they would perhaps be a little bit too fat. Then you really will not feel any bone anymore. And this is really concave, I think is the word. Or is it the other one? English, not my first language. But anyway, that would be a bit too fat. And I think that only happens when you give them pellet food, junk food, basically, for sheep. If they're on grass or on hay, you won't get that situation, really. So if it's a bit more straight, but there's definitely, it's easy to feel a layer of fat and muscle there, then they're in good condition. And if it's really like a hollow, starting to think that is concave, but whatever. If it's really hollow and you feel the bones very clearly and very, very little tissue on top of the bones, then they're in bad shape. Well, Chewy here, you can feel bone on the top, that ridge, but then it's nice and a little bit, not hollow, but the other one, damn, what's that word? At any rate, there is a lot of, someone gets in trouble with the bucket there. Ooh, now we get in trouble with Mr. Ram, eh? No, not quite. He is still a bit, he hasn't been here that long. He does try and assert himself that he is boss here sometimes. Getting friendly. We have a couple every now and then, but he can be a bit, he knows how to use his horns. At any rate, what I'm trying to say is that they are in very, very good condition. And that is after a month on this grass and the occasional treat. It's just a few mouthfuls for each of them. And oh, mister, your horns won't fit into the bucket, will they? No, they don't. Ramming the bucket now. Yeah. Right, I'm trying to make my way out of the grazing area so that I can tell a few more things. Give me a second to hop over. There we go. So, a month on practically only grass, and again the occasional treat, a few mouthfuls per sheep every day, or sometimes I even skip a few days, and they're in really brilliant shape. And clearly Agnar is back to grazing now. He's not going for treats anymore. The ladies there are. But he's gone back to grass, and you can see that it's not all that hard to find a few mouthfuls. Makes me think that I could quite possibly leave them in this quarter another few days. If I would be, how to say, if I knew that there was going to be a food shortage by the end of winter, if I would not have any hay to feed by the end of winter and in spring, which is the leanest time of all, when the snow is gone and it no longer preserves the remaining grass, and all that is now still green preserved underneath the snow will turn brown and is no longer nutritious, really. So if I would be pushed to keep them somewhere for as long as possible, I would, just seeing this, them having many mouthfuls without really walking much at all, without really looking, then I would say they'd be fine here for a few more days. And every extra day in a cold climate is worth it. So is that the combination of seeing that they don't have trouble finding food and that their gut filling condition are really as good as you could ever want it, whether it's summer or winter? This is just really perfect. They have nothing, they lack nothing, absolutely nothing. And the cold, again, minus 12 Celsius, or did I not say that yet? Yes, I did. With that coat on them, that doesn't bother them at all. So no, I came here thinking I would make the move on to the next quarter. It's absolutely not happening. There is no need. So more than a month in this quarter, and to be honest, I think this quarter has more food than the other three. The grass here is better. But if I use the month as a rough estimate what a quarter can give them, then I have 3 more months left in this grazing area until they are down to this stage of grazing, right? So there is still food left. Well, it is now the 24th of December, so when will I be finished with this whole grazing area? Would be 24th of March, roughly. Then there is another grazing area here. You see it runs roughly from the forest edge there to there and then to the path, and there's a path running between this grazing area and the next one. So this is about 2 hectares. The other one is about half a hectare, but already partially grazed. I think what remains will still be okay for, if I push them, 1.5 months. The grass that is still there is really pretty good. Better than in some of the parts here. So that would bring me to the end of April or the beginning of May. That's perfect, because usually that is when regrowth will start, and then we're not grazing the remains of last growing season, but then we're going to the new growth and we can start all over again. Notice that that would be without giving them any hay whatsoever. Nothing. And the only thing which would get in the way of that, which would really mess that up, is if the snow will get too thick, and especially thick is not really an issue. Last winter there was an awful lot of snow, but at max there was just about 0.5 meter, I think, and there was really no problem for them to dig through that to find the grass like Agnar is doing here now. This is very easy, but even some crusted half-meter deep snow is no match for those hoofs. But what can happen is if there is quite a lot of snow and then it melts partially and then refreezes and melts and refreezes, then that crusty layer on top can get very hard and thick, and at some point when that gets too much, it can take more energy to find food than that food will give them, and that is when hay will have to come into play. And that's why I started feeding hay last winter, which was my first winter with sheep. I think I made it a bit too easy on them, but yeah, well, I chose to do it anyway. Hello. Yeah, but that is a possibility. I mean, the last few winters here have been decidedly milder than what they used to be before that. So there's really no guarantee for what the situation will be like later on this winter. Ideally, this snow will not go away and there will only be new snow on top all the time until April, May, by which time there then should be about a meter or more. Again, they should be able to manage that without a thick icy crust on top, but we'll see. But worst case, I guess sort of sub-worst case, well, there are two bad cases. The one that I already explained with the icy crust, and then there is a situation where the snow melts away completely in midwinter. Like last year that happened in February. Yeah, pretty sure. And that is not good, because especially if the temperatures are quite a bit above zero, above freezing, then you'll get what I think I said earlier already. What is preserved underneath the snow now and is still green will then start turning brown. I'm just keeping an eye on that girl there, because she looks as if she has a sore leg. Didn't notice that yet. Well, I'll look into that when I'm done talking. Yeah, so complete melting, and then the remaining green grass turning brown and very rapidly and very dramatically losing nutrition. That would be, I suppose, the worst case, because once that starts to happen, well, you don't get fresh nutrition anymore until the growing season starts. And that would very dramatically cut down the available food in the grazing areas, and then hay would really come into play. But so far they are doing way better than expected. So more than a month in this quarter. Oh dear. Yeah, we'll have to check her hoofs. And what my estimate for per quarter was 24 days. So I've gained, I think, 9 days if I'm exact. I said I was going to take you inside for a look at the paperwork. I think I'll keep that until the actual moving day. A nice surprise, getting an extra day out of the grazing area. Okay, they are happy. I'll go check on the poor little sheep over there. Thanks for watching.